couple of days ago, I completed my first ever 3-game Warhammer event, and let me say, it was an absolute blast. I had so much fun. Everyone there was great. I was certainly one of the newer players there, and there were a few others who were also new, but the people with greater Warhammer experience, the elders, helped just make it so welcoming. And I'd love to give a massive shout out to the people at KD Games for giving us a place to do this, and make this fantastic event possible. In case you haven't seen this brief video I did on the topic, I'll give a basic rundown on the details of the games. Firstly, this game took place in an LGS. It wasn't a big event with over 200 people or something crazy like that. There were literally only 8 of us, which is important because without that info, my final placement, which I'll reveal later, will sound far more impressive than it actually is. Anywho, each of us had to build a 750 point list, and the game had a few rules which favoured infantry lists, but other than bringing huge models with 11 wounds or over, there wasn't really any set in stone restrictions on what the list could entail. Despite our quite low points compared to the default 2000 that most tournaments had you pilot, we still had 2 hours to complete each game, which, due to a lot of us being newer, was honestly used to its full extent most of the time. Before I actually talk about the day, I want to quickly go over my list, what I thought was alright, and what could probably, definitely, be improved. First of all, my detachment, the Halo's Creed Battleclade. Wow, this detachment is so good. Every stratagem has a multitude of fantastic use cases, and the enhancements, specifically the dyad wafers for the datasmith, seem really good. Also, advance and charge on infiltrators and the horses is real good. However, I don't think my list really extracted its full worth from the detachment. For example, the only unit that would benefit from critting on 5s would be my infiltrators, with their kinda crazy sustain 2-3 attack tasers. But these guys are squishy. They died every game. I think this attachment needs Cataphrone Breaches or Ballistari, it seems. Which, I mean, to be fair, every detachment probably needs at least one of these for their anti-heavy firepower. Next up is Belisarius Call. Was he worth it in a small points game like this? Yes. Army-wide hit rerolls on a single unit is great. But 175 points for a single model in a 750 point game is quite chunky. For point of reference, my mini 450 point games I did with my brother is this identical list, minus the Castellans and Call, but plus an Iron Strider. So minus 1 model, plus 4 models makes that big 300 point difference. Although in all fairness, this is probably quite normal. I'm just used to AdMech where units are kind of all under 100 points. There's also the point that I'm very new and dumb. Obviously, I made a wide array of mistakes. I am still at the foot of the mountain that is this hobby's learning curve. I started the day waking up on my own volition, despite setting an alarm, then immediately having a panic attack because I thought I missed the whole thing and slept in. This has happened before with many other things. But no, my internal clock is just whack, and I woke up a whole whopping 9 minutes before my alarm was set to go. With my heart rate slowed, I made a pre-game sandwich and had a pre-game cup of tea, and then threw on my best Warhammer gaming drip, a hoodie, which I barely wore because goddamn, it was hot, and jeans, and set off. Big reusable shopping bag in hand with all my minis, in a cushioned plastic box because I don't have any cool transport devices for my minis. Luckily, the LGS in which this took place was only about a 15-minute walk from my house, so I didn't have to worry about traffic or all that malarkey, and I made it there a cool 1 minute early. When I got there, I kind of awkwardly stood there while everyone talked, being the second last person there, but I knew a couple of people there on account of playing Magic the Gathering with them in the same store. Other than that though, I wouldn't say I had any friends per se attending. There was a guy playing Clash Royale, which was cool, but I didn't want to shake his gaming focus. What if he was about to arena up? After a couple of minutes, we all listened up to the guy hosting as he explained the rules. Pretty standard 750 point match, with the army size considered to be strike force for rules purposes, and the sub 1000 point rule of actions and shooting, and sticky objectives available for all units. After that, our names were shuffled up and we were given our first opponents. My first one was Oliver, who is one of 2 people running Dark Angels, making Dark Angels the only duplicate army throughout the event. Oliver was fantastic, both in sportsmanship and as a player. His list brought a big chunky unit of Deathwing Knights with a chaplain to give them +1 to wound, a squad of 6 Inner Circle companions led by Judicia, or is it Judica, I'm not really sure, and some kind of intercessor unit with a captain. I'm not too sure, they didn't come up too much. I was kind of silly in this game. I guess you could say I was rusty because it was my first game in a while and I was far more used to fighting Votan, but my whole game plan was just kind of a massive oopsie anyway. At first, he deploys Deathwing Knights, and I saw them and thought, bam, that's my target. If I take those guys out, he'll only have his more piddly little guys left. So I readied my Castellans to charge down the field and hopefully tear asunder those small knights. I also had Call ready to follow and atomize them too. I figured if I spaced out my forces, my horses could greet them first, and my Castellans could hopefully hold them for a couple of turns while Call does some shooting. Let this lead me into talking about Wrath of the Rock. I hate Wrath of the Rock. Yes, I know Dark Angels need a good detachment desperately, But in a tournament like this, where all infantry is heavily encouraged, having a -1 to wound on everything that is above 5 strength was crippling. And I know dice average out across a game, or a day in my case, but my dice were not good in this first game. If I had to roll anything above a 2, I was terrified. I don't think a single 5-up invuln was ever succeeded with my Castellans, which, spoiler alert, both died. And at one point, like an idiot, I fired Overwatch with my rangers into the knights. Maybe one of them only had 1 wound left. I couldn't see why else I would even bother doing that. And while re-rolling 19 hits, I only got 2 6s. I went first, and unfortunately for me, I'd fallen for Oliver's bait. My infiltrators I'd brought up on the left to secure the left objective. They had died turn 1 to some nice shooting and a grenade from the whatever intercessors. So I had to bring up my vanguard, which I foolishly left at the back and not moved to help like an idiot. My Castellans got up in the Deathwing Knights' faces, and with 12 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, and re-rolling both, and saving on 4s, I managed to kill 0 knights. I think 1 hit ended up landing and dealing 2 damage. I don't even remember what happened with the horses. I think they just died to shooting after doing a secondary. By battle round 3, this is what the table looked like. Yep, tabled on my first game. Can't say it's my proudest moment in the hobby. I didn't even manage to take out his Deathwing Knights. He had 1 left with the chaplain. So yeah, he sent his companions over, cleaning the gore of my poor rangers off their blades. Off to my home objective, and that was the game. I lost 22 to 85. And we weren't using the Painted Army plus 10 point rule. So if we were, I technically would have lost 22 to 95. I asked Oliver for advice after I lost, and he gave some good pointers. An especially important one being screening, which, being a little nooblet, I didn't really do. Until now, every game after the first, you can notice I tried to a little bit. I also think going back, I probably would have sent more off to the left objective. If my Castellans could hold off the knights for my infiltrators unless they died, and maybe call and some vanguard to run across the board on the left and try to overwhelm the intercessors, I could have tried to surround his remaining forces and, I don't know, maybe win that way? Or at least that's the idea. I could be wrong or stupid, or both. Looking around the room after talking to Oliver, I noticed I was the only one who was sat down, unmoving, not playing Warhammer. So I was the first person to lose throughout the store, and when everyone's stores were collected, I had the lowest. How embarrassing. However, I was not disheartened. Maybe going up against a squishier army would give my guys a better time. That guy over there had Tau, right? And, I mean, those Chaos Demons look... My second opponent was a guy called Jack, who was running Dark Angels with Wrath of the Rock. However, I was optimistic. I'd fought his Wrath business before, so I'll have a secret tactical advantage in the form of prior combat experience. This game had one of those twist rules that basically capped all shooting to within 18 inches. Oh yeah, the first one had one that made all weapons pistol, but it didn't really come up, honestly. I deployed quite aggressively against Jack. He had 10 Terminators and 2 blocks of 5, one led by a Librarian and one by Belial himself. Belial? He also had a lone op lieutenant to hop around the field quickly. He left a squad of Terminators in Deep Strike and set his homers, in my opinion, quite aggressively. I kind of just used my massive numbers to screen and make sure he couldn't deploy some sneaky Terminators in the back. My plan here was to sticky the objective with my horses, then when his Terminators, hopefully, fall short of it, I reacted and moved them back to Call, who I think was giving out stealth at that moment, and if they decided to charge, I could punch back with Call and lay down fire with my Vanguard the next turn. On the right, I wanted my infiltrators to just be annoying on the objective. I was hoping I could survive a melee with the Blade Guard, but honestly wasn't too confident. Nonetheless, they had the Castellans to back them up with their flamers and mighty fists. I decided to hold back my battle line in case you got any funny ideas about deep striking. However, this may have been a mistake, considering they offer buffs when stuff is nearby. Anywho, on his turn, his Terminators on the left shoot and kill my horses, who couldn't get far enough away, and the Terminators in Deep Strike descend on the right, helping the Blade Guard eviscerate my poor infiltrators. Seeing this, I prepared to punch back, as planned. Call fires his atomizer on my next turn and does nothing. I put Invocation of Machine Vengeance on the Deep Strike Terminators so the Castellans can wipe them out, and march my infantry forward to pepper the enemies with some hopefully lucky shots. The Castellans instantly demolish all 5 Terminators with their rerolling hits and wounds fists, leaving just the Librarian left. His Blade Guard, who I think used Ley Line Aggression, can't remember, strike back and get one Castellan dangerously low. On his next turn, we continue the battle. His Terminator's Baguette Launcher, as he named it, and some nice bolter fire get Call to 2 wounds left. They succeed a charge, and my Vanguard fire Overwatch, which doesn't do anything. Don't know why I did that anyway. And, oh my god, if Call ever had a time to lock in, it would be now. He succeeds every 4-up and takes no points of damage. Holy moly. He then goes and delivers identical damage in response, but the spirit was still there. The remainder of the game doesn't really have much. Call self-repairs for a single wound. The Castellans, one of which died to the Blade Guard last turn, killed the Blade Guard and the Chaplain in the fight back and the following round's combat. We run out of time at the end of Jack's battle round 3. The score, me to him, is 26 to 25. I win by 1 point, and I feel a bit like a villain at that point. He lost his first game by 3 points, and his second one by a single one. This time, being last to finish, and still seeing Oliver at the top of the leaderboard, I am confident. Maybe I'm not as trash as I thought I was after all. My next opponent was Kev, with his Khorne Chaos Demons. This was my favourite match, because at the start, I was terrified of his Warlord, a Greater Demon Prince of Tzeentch, I think. He had it with extra attacks or something, I can't remember. And the twist rule was Lords of War, giving our warlords an extra 3 attacks for each weapon. Which kind of made me feel bad for Cole being my warlord, seeing as each of his 3 melee weapons and his melter each get another 3 shots. Anyway, as we set up on this cool desert terrain, only one thing is on my mind. Kill the warlord! As you can see, I actually set up quite carefully, my furthest units being my scouted rangers hiding for dear life in a ruin. I originally wanted to go as normal, charge my horses into the left and follow with a counterpunch of Cole and the infiltrators, but those mounted demons look quite scary, so I was actually hoping Kev would go first and I could kind of plan around that. He did, and he went full throttle. Aside from a 10-man squad of Khorne demons who sat in deep strike, he charged everything down the way to turn my Admech into scrap, attempting an ambitious turn 1 charge into my infiltrators with his warlord, which fails. His 10-man squad of Khorne demons, the one in deep strike, also failed to charge my rangers, so they sat on the objective instead, and his hounds go to the closest ruin, similar to my rangers, and wait to hunt their prey, my horses. After that, it's my turn, and everything falls into place. I pick Conquer Imperative for Assault and give my units advance and charge with Halo's Creed buffs. I hail an invocation of Machine Vengeance on the scary warlord and send my Castellans to dish out some damage. Cole fires his 6-shot melter and deals 7 damage straight away. The Castellans charge and finish him off. What a result. He uses Spiteful Demise to hit back on the poor innocent robots, but nonetheless I have an advantage. Or at least I thought I did. Due to the primary being Sights of Power, Kev was actually still in the lead. His Lancer Demon guys, the Blood Crushers, that's the one, changed direction and rushed to my Castellans, one of which being slightly wounded. And his Demon Wreck arrives from deep strike. Unfortunately, fail a charge against my infiltrators. His Khorne Demon leader, now with no bodyguard unit as the rangers have popped them all, was sat alone on the right objective, being outdone on OC by my rangers. He retreated it to, I think, score a secondary on his home objective. However, his new 10 brick are nicely within the left objective. Meanwhile, I've got my forces tucked away in bed in my deployment zone. His Lancer guys charge in and kill both Castellans, leaving my traumatized Datasmith safely outside of engagement range to do absolutely nothing. He also begins to move the hounds up the field. During my turn, my Vanguard, finally doing something this game, shoot at his demons in the middle ruin. My Datasmith tries the same, but ultimately fails, as is the fate of all Mechanicus pistol shots. My Rangers stand fast on the objective as the final Blood Crusher, 2 of its friends being shot by Cole's Atomizer, made its way over. My horses still haven't really done much. While they're alive, he cannot select new prey for his hounds, arguably his strongest remaining unit, so I decide to retreat them a tad, giving room for Cole and making my infiltrators looking all the more yummy. My infiltrators shoot the dogs, but I decide not to charge, to waste his turn charging them. I thought to myself, if I charge, sure, I could kill 1 or 2, but then my infiltrators would be dead, and his dogs could go wherever. Is that a smart choice? I don't know. Let me know. Kev, who is still winning at this point, heals his damaged demon brick from 3 or 4 back to 7, and they, along with the Blood Crusher, charge my rangers. However, in true Hunger Tide fashion, yeah, I decided on that name, only 3 rangers die, and the remaining lot kill 4 Khorne demons in melee combat, devouring their tasty flesh, and keeping the objective in my hands. What heroes! My infiltrators, unfortunately, were shot off the board by the hounds, who came back around and devoured my Datasmith, who I think got a secondary done before he died. Poor guy. Back to my turn, the left field was completely undefended, so I sent our horses ramming speed to the left objective, giving them +2 inches of movement and a 4-inch advance, for a total of 18 inches of movement. Cole took the hounds behind the barn and did what he had to do. My Vanguard, now in the ruin, shot apart the remaining demons and the leader, leaving only his Lancer on the field, which died to something, I can't remember. Either way, Kev was still in the lead, but tabled, unfortunately, or I guess fortunately. I got tempting target and arrow denial, along with some hefty primary, and that was game. 67 to me, and 47 to Kev. A real nail-biter, due to my lack of victory points, and Kev's awesome, fast, aggressive list. Oh, but Doctor Unqualified, I hear you say. You said you won a war medal. How did you place in total with a really cool, and awesome, and epic 2-1 victory? Well, I got 4th. Only just in the top 50%. No, my war medal wasn't first, second, or third, nor last place, which I was prepared to wear forever with shame should I earn it. I got the war medal for the worst dice roll. I know, I never would have seen it coming. Here, I even got a picture of it. Wow, so bad. Ooh, look at all those low rolls. My war medal for this was a giant dice provided to me by the store. Upon being asked to roll it, I did, and it rolled a 1. Causing an uproar in the crowd, and apparently not being the first time that has happened. To sum it up though, narrative events are awesome. There was even a little story about all the battles written within the LGS's Discord. I'll definitely be going to the next one. It was so cool, and I encourage anyone who is watching to also go to one now.